on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Focus on Liberia Tough Talking Thursday. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be looking at two very important issues. One is what is happening at the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency, LDEA. Many call it a fracas. What's going on there? We're going to talk about it. Also, we have the Russian African Summit, Chinese African Summit, now Korea African Summit, all this summit. We're going to talk about the Korea Africa Summit and all the other summits in between. What is happening here? We're going to talk about that. Let me welcome all our viewers from across the globe. And Mr. Tule, if you can put your phone in landscape mode, you can put your phone sideways so that we can have a better view. So you can have your phone first put it on auto rotate and then you put it sideways so we can have a better view. Again, let me welcome all our viewers from across the globe. When it is Thursday, it's time to talk tough. We're going to be talking tough on the fracas at LDEA. A lot of things going on there. There was a fist fight, invectives being exchanged or being hauled at other leaders there. We also see letters being written about the bad things that are going on at the LDA allegedly. And what's all with this Africa, Korea, Africa, Russia, Africa, China, Africa, India, Africa, US, and all these summits? We're going to be discussing that. If you have not done so already, please invite a friend and let's get this started. But while we get prepared, I want to play the video from the LDEA. It's a disturbing video that there was a meeting called by probably the regular meeting, and the head of the agency, Mr. Abraham Kroman, said, while you are having the meeting, do not bring guns in my office. And the two deputies took exception to that. And what happened next was kind of surprising. Before that, we saw that the two deputies wrote the MOJ, that's the Ministry of Justice, complaining that there were things that the Mr. Kroman or the Director Kroman was doing. Those things were not part of what they were there to do. In fact, they accused him of being in cahoots with the drug cartel. Take a listen and you'll be the judge.
We're not coming to meeting here, and we're not having meeting here with any of these men in here. Yeah, also, all of you here, all of you here, also.
What the fuck wrong with you, no, I don't talk to any other people. I don't get test respect for the fucking podcast stage from the cantor. Nobody will get inside with weapon. Okay, then fuck you and sit out here. I will not pay your own pay. What the fuck wrong with you, Eddie? You got no respect to you?
Let's fast forward that a little bit.
No, but I gotta hold you. Oh, you holding me? I can't hold you. Wait, protect you.
Wait, what?
You a good guy, but
You're not a good human being.
I'm not. Go ahead.
You are very disrespectful. You are unprofessional. Shut the fuck up when I'm talking. I tell you, shut the fuck up.
You do not after you. You do not after you.
That's just a little bit of what ensued. Let me welcome you all again. Let me welcome Dr. Abdullah Dukle. Dr. Dukle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here.
Good. And Dr. Dukle, I've been working with the Liberian government, something that he sometimes tried to deny, but we can't let him get away with that. He has worked with Dr. Amos Sawyer. He worked with President Sirleaf, and kind of slightly worked with President Weir. Dr. Dukle knows a thing or two about government and governance. Welcome, Doc.
Thank you.
Let me also welcome our political analyst, Mr. Mohammed Sharif, a product of Waplo Institute from Kalipo, Kanweke in River G. Welcome, sir.
Dennis, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I want us to start with what's happening at the LDEA. Dr. Dukle, when Weir was in power, they said this kind of thing we never saw it Ellen time. This kind of thing we never saw it Weir time. What do you think?
Well, I think yesterday I posted something about the weaknesses of this coalition government, where people are pulled from every different part, and the only thing they have in common, they're linked to the president. So they're put into boxes to work together, and they don't know each other. They don't have the party discipline. They don't have, I'm here because we all work together to do this. So these things, will happen. And you have young people together in a position of power. And sometimes, people think they're entitled to things. Entitlement, the sense of entitlement, make you sometimes arrogant in your exercise of power. So that's what I can say. I don't know. I mean, it's ugly. What we saw was ugly. The deputies writing to the Minister of Justice, accusing the chief DEA to be in cahoots with drug dealers. That's a serious accusation. That's like saying the head of the IRS, work with the mafia. I'll stop there.
Mr. Sharif, how ugly is this situation, and why is it happening?
Thank you, Dennis. This is very ugly, and I'll pick up from the last part where Dr. Douglas stopped, accusing the director of connivance with drug lords, drug cartel, as you call it, is a very serious allegation. But you have to now consider the source. After we've listened to these recordings, this source to me is not credible. This source is, someone who's insubordinate, someone who's not waiting his term, in the leadership ladder. And so because of that, he's very discredited in my book. You accuse the director, and somewhere in your interview, somewhere on another network, you say, when asked, do you have evidence? And the response was, we will get to that. We will get there when these things come up. So it's like the old Liberian thing. I'm going to accuse you of something, and then, I will start to look for the evidence. The evidence is not there, but I will accuse you first, and then start to go look for the evidence. That's what he's doing right now. This is disingenuous for this guy to do that. And so, going back to the meeting itself, when the director says, don't come into my office, no weapons allowed. The director has that right. The director is, probably basing this on some suspicion. Keep in mind, AB is someone who has worked in the security sector for decades, so he understands what is going on. And so when he says that, and these guys were infuriated about that, and so which begs the question: why were they infuriated, and why were they carrying weapons into the director's office?
Thank you. Thank you. So
I think you could also add to that. I mean, the insubordination aspect of it is probably the most, impactful of the whole process. That people will be so. The language they use in the video that you use that to your boss. If you say don't come with guns, you have a choice. You leave, or you take up your gun and secure it and give it to your bodyguards, because all of them have bodyguards. And then say, okay, hold my gun. I'm going to a meeting with the chief. And then so those are choices, but you don't start insulting, calling people names. And it is kind of troubling, really. It's kind of troubling. I don't think these people are mature enough to work in that environment. I don't think so. I think lack of maturity.
okay, let me bring in Mr. Tule. Mr. Tule, do you have your phone auto rotate?
Yeah, I went into the settings and I did put it on auto rotate, but I don't know why there's something wrong here. So I don't know. I'm sorry that I have to come on the screen this way. I sincerely apologize to all of you guys. How you guys doing?
Good. Which phone are you using?
I'm using I'm using an Android. I was trying to switch it to the iPhone, but it was going to take a long time. So that's why.
So if you swipe, there should be a lock symbol so you press on that lock symbol, it's going to put it on auto rotate.
Okay. Okay, you got it.
All right, then turn the phone.
You got it. You got it. Yeah, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's part of my 35 years of teaching experience.
I see, man. You're supposed to be superintendent. You know all the thing here.
Okay, you got it. Yeah.
All right. Let me welcome Mr. Momo Tule. This is the first time on Focus on Liberia. Mr. Tule has both security and military background, and that's why, Mr. Tule, welcome, and we are glad to have you on FOL.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks to your panelists and thanks to your viewers. I'm glad to be here. Today I'm a rookie on the show tonight. So
and we want to say welcome. Please accept our ceremonial cola and say welcome to stay.
Thank you.
I know you've heard about what's going on at the DEA. That's the Drug Enforcement Agency. People that's supposed to make sure, because the country undoubtedly is infested with drugs. I call it a drug pandemic or epidemic. What is your initial reaction to what's happening at the DEA, the letter being written to the MOJ, and also the fist fight and the invectives being thrown out that we saw on video?
Thank you very much. So first of all, when that news came out, when we saw the videos and the sort of words that were used in the video, and especially amongst the people who were supposed to be in at the top level, in our law enforcement, are people who were spewing those kind of embedded on the social media, or even in front of their subordinates. To me, I felt that was one of the lowest point, that I've seen in our nation history, where you see people who are supposed to be in charge were acting basically like kids. Their attitude, the demonstration, the behavior they sort of demonstrated, undermines what the entire rescue mission is about, the entire arrest agenda, right? The rule of law. Those are the guys who were to uphold the law, right? And they were the one, in hindsight, breaking the law, acting disorderly and stuff like that. So I felt disappointed in everyone on both sides, whether who initiated the confrontation or whatever. I expected, A.B. Cromand to have taken the high road, right? Regardless of how Fadiga acted, you know what I mean? In the security sector, there are leaders who have what we call the ability to resolve conflict, right? Conflict resolution is one of the main attributes of leaders, There are ways to find a way to mitigate this kind of, situation for not coming into the public glare, especially in front of your subordinates. So from the get-go, just from the onset, I felt disappointed, and I think the president did the right thing to suspend all of them pending investigation, and that was the right move.
And what do you think? Who or what is responsible for that? What do you think?
Well, I think it it boils down to leadership, right? So A.P. Cromand being the head of that agency, right? I think this incident has been brewing for a very long time. All right. I think we quite remember from the beginning, there was some kind of situation between these two, and it was resolved, right? But I don't think it was handled properly. I think they should have done a proper job in resolving that conflict. I think they just did it the Liberian way. They never invited professionals who are capable of resolving conflicts. They just did it like, oh, my man, like your big brother. This is about this. This is a professional job.
So
This is something where Dennis, can I ask him a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a law enforcement professional, how would you feel if at 10 o'clock you're supposed to have a meeting with your deputies, and 10:30 they tell you, oh, we just passed on a letter to the Minister of Justice saying that you are corrupt, you're engaged, you are part of the drug cartel and this and that. That same day, and you're going to have a meeting with them, would you allow them to come with guns into your office?
I mean, to answer your question, look, that's what I said from my initial opening, right? This thing had started a long time ago. What we saw happening that day never started on that particular day. This is something that there has been serious internal conflict within the DEA.
No. I understand that. What I'm saying is,
let him finish.
I'll get to what your question. I'm trying to lay the premise to get down there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I can see that.
Basically, I said there have been internal conflict brewing within the DEA, and from the onset, it was not handled properly. That's what I'm saying. Real professionals who are trained to resolve conflict were to be in that agency to help sort of mitigate the issue at the DEA between those leaders. Nothing of such was done. They did it the Liberian way. The president said, oh, my man, like your big brother, oh, my man, like your little brother, you'll forget it, you'll work together. And that was on the surface. A lot was not done. So because of that, it led to what Fadiga did. I'm not here to back what Fadiga did. First of all, from the military that I came from, we have 3 general orders. You have to respect the officer appointed over you, regardless of whether you like him, whether he's brown, black, or yellow. Once he's appointed over you, he's your superior. You must submit, you must oblige to his orders. Second, you have to, and then the rest go. I don't want to name all of that, but I just want to name just one of the 3 general orders that apply to this situation, right? Fadiga acted wrongly, right? If you feel aggrieved, that your boss is not treating you well or whatever, there are ways you walk up the chain of command, and he did what he was supposed to do, right? He wrote the Justice Minister, that is the chain of command. He went to the Chief Prosecuting Officer of the Republic and sent his letter complaining to his boss. Should he have done it that way? I don't think so. I think if he had issue with his boss, the first thing was to tell his boss, X, Y, and Z is going on in this agency that I don't like. I think we need to sit and talk about it. But instead, he felt that there wasn't any good relationship between the two already. So he went up the chain of command. Right. And he went up to the top. That is the Justice Minister. They all fall under the Ministry of Justice. Should he have waited for the justice
Yeah.
minister to intervene? Yes, he should have. But then he took
Thank
the
you.
matter in his own hand.
So
And then that's where he himself went wrong. And then on the other side, on the side of Eddie Kroman, he should have exercised restraint. That's why he's the boss, right? He should be the last one to have reacted. Seeing the situation, seeing the atmosphere, the ambience was not, it wasn't that conducive. He should have just, I believe, as a seasoned professional law enforcement officer, to have just called out the entire meeting for that day, just to calm the atmosphere and reschedule.
thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Dukley, you have to fix you are sideways. You have to fix that.
Who, me?
No, Dr. Dukley is sideways. Dr. Dukley, you have to.
Is that me?
Yes.
Sideways? Okay.
Yeah, but then you have the. Come on, Doc.
No, but I was doing it in my phone.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Good.
Here is
Okay.
the thing. So
No, but yeah, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Tule, what is, when you say restraint, how, what action would you have taken?
is that called a meeting of?
He should have done an assessment of the environment at the time, looking at his subordinate behaving disorderly, the language that was doing prior to the meeting, right? I mean, you could see, I mean, as a leader, as a seasoned law enforcement officer, you could tell, you could be very cognizant of what, you do your own risk, you do your own assessment of every situation, knowing that there was something that was going to, sort of come out, and it wasn't going to be good for the nation to see, or even your subordinate to see. Call off the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hold on, Dr. Dukley, I want your opinion.
I got one last question. I'm also a journalist. What would you put these people together again to work together?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, thank you.
So this was not in a vacuum, right? The two deputies wrote a letter to the MOJ accusing Mr. Krumah of administrative and structural breakdown. That was number one. Number two, selecting ex-fighters from for firearm training. That's number two. Protection of notorious drug dealer called God Lord. They also talk about operational restrictions imposed by Honorable Krumah and misconduct by LDEA agents and Honorable Krumah refusal to. So, Mr. Sheriff, do these allegations pale in comparison, if they are true, pale in comparison to what we saw in the video? You are muted. Unmute yourself, please. Mr. Tule, you are
All
fine.
right, I'm on now. So they do pale in comparison to all these allegations. Look, this is a guy that AB recommended. So if I'm
Mr. Sheriff, we're talking about someone, if AB is actually working with drug law.
I'm coming to that point.
Ex-fighter.
Let me land these thoughts of mine. If I'm AB sitting in Monrovia right now, I will be shaking my head. I will be so disappointed. I will be so beside myself. This is someone I brought closer to me, and this is, we haven't even gone a year, and this is what I'm getting from him. This guy has been insubordinate. This bodyguard, since he left, since he started working with AB, he's been insubordinate. His body language in these meetings, even when they were so-called getting along, his body language was so insubordinate. It was almost like, you could say, I was telling somebody, now I'm not clairvoyant, but you could tell that there was something brewing, and this guy was so insubordinate that, to AB, that you knew that something was coming. Look, in his own letter, he admitted, firing officials, in the DEA without the consent of the director. Who does that? He can't do that in the United States. But as soon as we go back to Liberia at the Roberts International Airport, by the time we get down there, then all the bad habits, come out. So he is wrong, and this pale in comparison. And then when he talks about, the director who's in cahoot with drug laws. There is no substantial allegations to this. He was asked this, and he said, "Okay, we'll get there when we, these allegations. We'll talk about these things." So he has nothing, and I mean, basically waiting now to gather evidence. This is a Liberian thing. I'm going to accuse you, and then I'll go around and look for evidence. So what President Boaka has done, I don't, he's the president, but the president should not have taken a decision this way, because this is exactly what Fadiga wanted. Everybody's involved. AB did not do anything to warrant suspension. AB was calm in that video. Thank God we had a video. And guess who was recording that video? Fadiga was actually recording that video. So you go with the premeditation to your boss's office with a gun.
But Mr. Sherry, you are dismissing the entire letter that he wrote. Like, this is
this is not credible letter. There's nothing credible in this. AB has been a law enforcement officer.
AB went to the press conference. He said Fadiga was brandishing his weapon. That's why it was taken away from him. From the video and what happened later, that seemed not to be true.
He was told to leave his weapons out.
Right.
But you don't go into a meeting. Dennis, you are
the
CEO of this network.
His weapon was not being taken away because he was brandishing it.
But you are the CEO of this network. If you say to me,
no, I get that part.
X, Y, and Z,
and I insist, did not represent the truth in his press conference. That's what I'm trying to get at.
It might have been embellished, but that pales in comparison to what this deputy director is doing to bait his director into taking an action so that they can all lose their jobs. This is exactly what he wanted. And the president of the Republic of Liberia fell for this. AB should be indignant, as I am indignant by this move to suspend Mr. Kroma. This is absolutely, this is bizarre, to say the least. I mean, this should be very unacceptable.
I don't think Kroma should have been suspended either.
You heard him on the video. You heard him say. You heard him calm. Yeah, how much more calm? How much more calm can you be? How much more calm can you be with these crazies going at him?
Let me bring in Mr. Tule on the firearm issue, right? Some are saying if there is a new regulations that you shouldn't bring firearm, that should have been communicated in the memo, right? And so telling them to leave their firearm at the door before they come in, some view it as disarmament.
Exactly. I don't know what led to Mr. Kroma asking his deputy to leave his firearm. This is a man who is qualified to carry a firearm. That's the reason why he's even having it on his person, right? He's qualified to carry. He knows how to use it, right? So apparently, he had this preconceived notion that maybe because look, everything that led to that a confrontation between AB Kroma and his deputy, I told you guys, it's not something that that just happened overnight. This thing has been brewing for months, right? And they tried to sort of make this work. I understand the point of AB Kroma. He felt that he has been he's always been undermined by his deputy, right? This deputy of his has done several things in the past, and like what happened to the RIA, where he took a decision and AB Kroma reversed the decision, right? And then Fadiga felt that he's not given the opportunity to actually execute his role as a deputy for operation, right? Even if you are a deputy for operation, there is a chain of command, right? Your immediate boss is AB Kroma, right? Whatever you do, right, it has to be channeled to your boss. If you see one of your subordinates that is assigned under you misbehaving, if you want to reprimand that person, yes, you can make the decision, but the final decision has to be, communicated to your boss. Say, look, X, Y, and Z did X, Y, and Z. I've come to a conclusion to suspend this person for X, Y, and Z. You provide the evidence to your boss. I'm sure AB Kroma won't interfere when you take that make such the decision, right? It is a procedural aspect of this whole thing, right? one person want to feel so bossy, right? Like, even in the army that I served in, right? If you are given a task to execute, right? Your senior man tells you that, look, you guys have to go and and execute X, Y, and Z, right? When you go, you have to go to your squad leader, because in a company you have a team leader, a squad leader, and everything. So everyone has a chain of command, right? You have someone to report to, regardless of how you were of appointed or how you were brought in. You have to respect the guy appointed over you. Whatever you do, someone has to answer for you, right?
Mr. Tule,
So I feel that I feel 1 second. I feel that Fadiga, what he wouldn't do here in the U.S. I think he noticed that
Thank you.
the society in Liberia wouldn't really judge him for whatever he does. He think he was his own boss,
Thank
and
you.
and then Abe Kumaferi, he was being undermined. But why I said that, it was right that the president, suspend everyone, because they were all found in that video, right? It was Abe Kuma, a group of guys going after his deputy. There were a lot of invectives thrown in that video and stuff. I think it was in the right judgment of the president to say, you know what, I will, appoint an officer in charge pending investigation. You guys, we have to get this thing right this time, because the first one was handled, and when there wasn't any better result, and it has mounted to something even bigger. So you guys can relax yourself for now, and let's get to the bottom of it. So I really think that the president did a good job by suspending every one of them on pending in investigation.
thank you, Dr. Dukle. I was reading the ad that established the LDEA. It's the Director General of the LDEA shall be responsible for the necessary changes in the organization that which shall be submitted to the minister for approval. It shall be the duty of the director to orientate, guide, supervise, and provide strategic guidelines for the overall function of LDEA, oversee the enforcement of penal and regulatory provision, appoint staff below the deputies, oversee recruitment, retirement, promotion, dismissal of personnel, and on and on and on. Then
Yeah.
it talks about the deputy.
Yeah, I
It
read it.
says,
Dennis, I read it.
right. So
Okay.
was there
No,
a clear delineation of function, or there seemed to be a
no, but I
misunderstanding
think
here?
what is on paper is very good, but what happens in reality is what matters. We all can read, people read things, and there was a case of where by the time I give an example, I said, can you imagine somebody saying the head of the IRS worked with the mafia to do money laundering?
Okay.
That's the case. Because, everything else you say, everything else that's on paper doesn't matter. That your deputy write to your boss, your superior boss, the Minister of Justice, and say, my boss is in cahoots with people that we are supposed to be fighting. That's a job killer.
And so, what does Abraham Kroman do in that instance? Say, don't bring
Yeah,
gun.
but
Is
no,
that
but then I've laughed myself out. That's what I agree with Tula. You say, okay, we're not going to have the staff meeting today. Let's postpone it to next week till
right?
I find out what's happening with this letter. Because that was the same day the letter was going to be given to the minister. So they came from the minister and then say, okay, we get this letter to the minister. And then he said, his people say, okay, you can't bring gun to the meeting. And then he called the other deputy for administration, called Hussein Fadiga, and told him, well, they say we can't bring guns. Then you say, okay, we're not going, stay. That's simple.
Right. So what
That
about
was the logical. Humanly, that's what I would have done. I would have said, "Oh, we can bring our gun to the meeting. Oh, this is the same man we complained today to the Minister of Justice. So maybe you got some different intentions. So we're not going to the meeting today. You get in your car, you go home.
But
You
here's
shut
the
up."
thing of Dr. Dukle. It said the deputy director for operation, that's Fadiga, is under the direction and subject to the control of the Director General, and upon delegation by the Director General, the duties of deputy director for operation may include on and on and on, right? So Abraham Kroman, knowing this, and he's being complained, I mean, his immediate action is come to the meeting, but do not bring your gun. I mean, what's the connection there?
Well, I remember we were young at the time. Some of you don't remember, but Mengistu told his ministers, leave your guns outside because, this take place here, we don't want anybody to get paranoid. And they went in a meeting and he shot everybody. You remember Mengistu from Ethiopia, his first cabinet? He shot 11 people in him. He said, leave your guns outside. He shot
Right.
all of them.
So
Yeah,
if he say leave your gun outside, but my bodyguards in here can keep their guns, I
well,
mean, so I
I'm
don't see
just
the
saying,
connection.
no, I'm just saying leave the gun out is just a byproduct of what happened that day earlier. The letter to the Minister of Justice.
Was that a misjudgment on the part of AB to say, well, the way I stop this is leave your gun outside?
No, I think we should have just canceled the meeting and said maybe
Right.
tensions are too high today. Cancel the meeting and go home and say, okay, let's talk next week. By the time the minister called all of us for a meeting and all of that, and then we talk. But
Thank you.
yeah, that's what I would have done. I probably would have said, okay, my man, I don't want to see you today. Okay, I'm angry. I don't want to see you.
So it's like everybody was suspecting everybody.
Yeah.
The Honorable Green, welcome. Honorable Green,
Thanks for having me.
AB has been accused many times of all kinds of things. Allegations have been leveled against him. Today, Master Washington from in their complaints, they told him that he has ex-fighters. In fact, when they were in their office, there were ex-fighters from Ulimo. He's recruiting people, who are ex-fighter and all that. Master Washington from the who is former commissioner of the TRC wrote this today that Abraham Kroma is this kind of behavior exhibited by people like Abraham Kroma will continue to happen if Liberians keep appointing perpetrators of the civil war to public office. Abraham Kroma was an executive of Ulimo K and chief of staff to Alhaji Kroma during the war, and we know how brutal Ulimo K was as a rebel faction. Of course, all factions were brutal. A.B. Kroma was within full glare of the public then. He wasn't hiding his rebel lane. I personally saw A.B. Kroma in uniform, fully armed with AK-47 and on and on. Does AB link with Ulimo has any bearing on what we are discussing today?
Well, from a professional standpoint, I don't think his linking the past with any faction has to do anything with what he's the role he's playing today. Because in our society, Liberia is very small. Everybody has some past problem that we can reflect to, and that will be a disqualification of many. Now, has he proven to be different? Has he proven to be better? I think that's the question we should be asking. Did he go through any form of reconciliation, any form of rehabilitation, any form of getting to be a better person to serve our society and to serve public office? That should be our focus. Now, going back to the situation, what I see wrong here is that I think his obstinate determination to enforce his self-imposed restriction on his colleagues, as well as political appointees, were in flagrant violation of the policy. Now, he, as being the DG, and all of his principal deputies, they all bear and they all enjoy the authority, the sovereign authority of the president as presidential appointees. They are all equal. In terms of operation and functions, that's where you have line functions, you have the difference. Now, all of those officers or those senior staff members were authorized and certified to bear and carry arms. Now, one person in the agency cannot come up unilaterally and determine who to carry arm in what area, which area is restricted, and what have you. That is flagrant violation. Also, if he did not want them, say again.
Violation of what?
Go ahead.
The policy. Violation of the policy. It's a public office. It's a public building. It's not his private home. And as he is required.
It's in your office, though.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Every space in that building is a public. The office is a public office. It's not a private office. Now, the difference is at his home, his residential home, which is private, he can restrict it any way he feels. But there, if they are certified under the policy of the agency to bear and carry arms, non-restricted, one individual cannot self-impose a restriction or a policy subduing or overpowering the functioning policy. All of these pre-exist, every one of them, and it was predate them. So what he would have done also was, if he had problems, he should have formed a mutual area for the meeting, or speak with them as colleagues, and not disrespect them by having his staff, their subordinate, to restrict them of carrying their arms, which was wrong. And to come out unilaterally, if you have probably every more than that, suspend the meeting, confer with the oversight, which is the AG, the justice minister, and tell him his concern. These are my concerns, and I don't want be with them in the midst of them with arms or whatever. This is, and seek advice. But to unilaterally sit in the public office that the taxpayer is paying money for, that he does not own, to restrict them for bearing arms when they are certified and they are qualified to carry in every corner, every aspect, like he is that was a flagrant violation of the agency policies.
Thank you, Thomas. If you can flip your phone, landscape mode. We've been having this issue today with landscape. So now, the office of AB Krumah, that's his office. Nobody has the right to enter or go out. Has the police, right? Let's establish that. Is that your understanding? So anybody can just walk in and out.
Anybody cannot just walk in. But all the senior staff members, like the principal deputies, who are also authorized under our constitution, appointed by the president, who enjoy that presidential rights. That's why they all work at the will of the president. So that authority they have, like let me just finish this point. Like I was reading what you said. It said he has extra powers. He does not have extra powers. He has a power that is conferred on him by the president's sovereign authority, not his own power, not his own authority.
Thank you. Let me bring in
if there's credible threats, the director has the right. The director has the right to restrict the movement of weapons into the public space. There was credible threat, and because there was credible threat, you see the misbehavior of these miscreants going out, acting the way they did. So there was credible threats.
Suspend the meeting, seek advice from the Attorney General. That's what you do.
Mr. Sharif, these are his deputies. They are not miscreants. But
they behave like miscreants and hooligans.
Let me bring in Thomas here.
Mohammed, you okay?
Let me bring in Thomas here, because I spoke to someone who was deputy director of the NSA before the show. And he said, as the deputy director, he sought permission to go into his boss's office every time. And so when he went in the boss's office, he asked. And so asking someone to say, leave your guns, is not equal to disarmament, because you are not stopping their right to bear arms. All you are doing is leave your gun in the office, so they could have just gone back, lock their guns up, and come and have the meeting.
Dennis,
so that's what the professional told me.
Dennis, sorry for interrupting you, right? But you see, the reason why a lot of these things happen in these agencies, because the fact that, and this is, for me, I'm trying to find out what the phantom is, right? The president will appoint the head of an agency and say to that person, you bring somebody you're comfortable with to work with. Shouldn't be that way.
Exactly.
It should not be that way.
That is correct.
So if I bring someone who I'm comfortable to work with, I believe like I brought you. So you should submit to me. And it shouldn't be that way.
I agree.
That's what happened during the transitional government.
People should be appointed based on merits. I don't have to know you to work with you, but I should be respectful. We should coexist for the better good of the agency. But the fact that in Liberia, that every agency head, the president will tell you, give me a list of people you are comfortable with. It's a recipe for
disaster
or even corruption.
For disaster.
So I'll leave it right there.
Thank you, Thomas. Let me get your view. And Thomas, you go ahead.
So that's exactly the point for which I try to really just come on and challenge what Mohammed was saying. This whole idea that maybe you hear in the video, I recommended you for this position. And therefore, that person who is professional, who is trained, must come into the office and just follow what you tell them to do, even if there is a violation of the rules and regulations. We have a problem. And the reason why we came here is something that started after the Civil War under Madame Zeri regime. In her first term, she mostly recruited and assigned people based on their competence. But when people started to disagree with their bosses in the different ministries and agencies towards the end of the second term of Madame Zeri regime, it became a recruitment of a team. You are the Minister of Education, therefore bring people who you think you can work with. So people start to go with these a truckload of people behind them. And when they go, instead of actually respecting the rules and regulations that are laid down in the institutions, they tend to respect the head of the institution. And I was listening to Mohammed, he was discrediting the letter that the other people, that the two deputies wrote. Let's leave Fadiga out, for instance. Bauko is a well-educated person, well-informed person. I think he lectures criminal justice at Zion. He been in this sector for many years. So for me, when I look at what happened in that office, I'm mostly looking at what precipitated that outcome rather than the outcome itself. What has led to that outburst that took place in the meeting? This is a conflict that has been existing in this institution. The senators have intervened, other people have intervened, and yet it was not resolved. Highly educated people, the issue was not resolved until it went into this kind of outburst. So I think we should not just look at the video and analyze the situation based on what we hear in the video, but we have to look at what led to this. And part of the reason that led to this is well documented in this letter that those guys wrote to the justice minister. That the director general, for instance, is employing people without following the processes that need to follow. And when they ask him, he said, I will pay them from my pocket. How can a head of agency employ people in the public sector and say he will pay them from his pocket? It doesn't work. And you know, this is something that used to happen under Manasseri regime when you had a dual remuneration system, when you had the allowance system, and then you had the GOL or salary. So any head of agency could employ anybody and pay them under remuneration, under the allowance system. There wasn't any centralized recruitment process. So my thought is that people have gone back to government without actually realizing that things have changed over the past 6 years. And therefore, they can go back to doing what they were doing pre-2018 and really get away with it. So I don't think we should dismiss the letter. I don't think we should dismiss the other two guys. I think we should give the investigation chance to go through. I do support the president for suspending all three of them. I think the suspension is not based on what happened on that day, but the fact that people have been intervening and talking to these educated people, well-experienced people, and they couldn't listen. And now what is out there is that other people are saying, you said we're incompetent, we're in government, but we're not fighting among ourselves. Here are the educated people you've brought, and they are fighting in their offices. So I think the president was right to suspend all of them.
Mr. Sharif, they say, don't look at a place you fall down, but look at a place you slip. I mean, this allegation against Mr. Kroma has been there ever since that he himself, you know, is involved in some shady deals, right? Let me put it out there. So this letter has come to, and yesterday even when you listen to other talk shows, people that are calling in, they are kind of attesting or giving credence to what is being contained in the letter. You are saying that we should just throw everything out because it's not credible, even if AB himself embellished the truth during his press conference?
There is no evidence. There is no evidence.
That's what the investigation is going
tell you this,
to
Dennis.
right?
Dennis.
No, I mean for now. That's why we're waiting for the investigation, right?
Yeah, we're talking about it now. Dennis, neither you nor I, nor Thomas or anyone else on this show has any evidence against AB right now as we speak. Everybody is speculating about AB's past. This is what he's done. This is what he's done. But they cannot, in a competent court of law, produce or adduce any evidence against him. They're waiting now to go and fetch evidence. I mean, this is the Liberian way. I'm going to accuse you. And then, by the way, you have to prove yourself that you didn't do what I'm saying that you did. This is the Liberian way. I just want to go back to something my sister, that you referenced, Masa mentioned in her letter. I don't know. I was not in Liberia at the time, but what I do know that AB was chief of staff. Maybe someone who worked in that government can correct me. I stand corrected. It was chief of staff of the interim administration that was formed shortly before the election of 1997.
I was there.
Right. So I think he was chief of staff of that government that was
Yeah.
formed when Taylor and others came to town.
Chief
So
of staff to the
No,
co-president.
the chief of staff to
the interim
AFL.
government,
Okay.
Taylor and all, Taylor, Bowley, and everybody. Now, unless that government was not credible in the eyes of some people, then of course you can dismiss the
No,
entire
she said
arrangement.
She said Ulimo, not the government. So I don't know. That's why I was asking if he.
I think that was the RGNU, the Interim Government of National
That
Unity,
was the
where they
interim
pull all the
government
faction
of national
together.
unity.
No,
Yeah.
LNTG.
No,
The
it was
LNTG, right? Okay, yeah.
It was
Okay, that was the
LNTG.
LNTG. I think it was LNTG too. Okay, so you had all these warring faction leaders who came together. I think it was 5 of them
It was
who were in the
under
Council of State.
Ruth Perry. It was under Ruth Perry.
Okay.
So your point is, if he had fought for Ulimo K, right? Would that have, and now the
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I know A.B. Kromah from the University of Liberia. Massa Washington also knows A.B. Kromah from the University of Liberia. Just because he's in conflict with Fadiga, who beta A.B. Kromah into this, and these guys they misbehaved.
You don't know enough to come to that conclusion.
These guys, what we know, Dennis, is that Fadiga has been very insubordinate to Mr. Kromah. Fadiga has been trying to do this for a long time, and he has gotten his wish now because the president has suspended everybody. It's like that baby, right, that we talk about in the Bible. Okay, so this is the situation. So now we're all suspended. Okay, he's going to sit down and say, okay, thank God we're all suspended. How do you show up a weapon when there's credible, when you've just been to the Minister of Justice against the boss? So what are you going to tell your boss now? So that's why he was recording. So nobody is talking about the recording. Why was he recording? Why was he there recording? What did he want to do in the meeting? So Mr. Tule said it right. This has been going on for a long time, and the issue was not resolved at the time. At the time, had it been resolved correctly, based on the rule of law, and not just people sitting in the room and sharing a bottle of water, a bottle of soda, had it been resolved correctly, this would not have happened.
I want to go to Dr. Doom now. He has not spoken about Mr. Sharif. Does AB bear did he do anything wrong in this case? Does he bear any responsibility
based on what we're talking now? AB bears very little responsibility, and I want to agree with Mr. Tule when he said AB should have just called up this meeting, call it a day, and say, look, guys, we're just going to call it a day. We will meet tomorrow when tensions have calmed down, but he didn't do that. But
he took Fadiga's phones. Why was he taking the phones?
Look, we're talking tonight. If he didn't take that phone, if we didn't see this video, then we will be everybody and their mother.
Fadiga shared a video from his.
I think we're wasting time on nothing.
Everybody and their mother.
Let's get to the crux of the issue. Let's waste our time on the crux of the issue. We just moving around.
Excuse me.
Let him finish. I want to really get where finish, and then I'll go to Dr. Douglas and then Mr.
So if that video didn't surface, then we will be saying something now. So I think that AB was within his rights, and where I am disappointed is the suspension of AB as well. AB should not have been suspended, and I believe that at the end of the day, when the evidence, when everything has been adjudicated, AB Kromah is going to go back to his position, and these guys will be fired because they were insubordinate. They are the hooligans and miscreants in this case. So I mean, they need to be fired and let go immediately.
I agree with you that AB will go back, and that's because of the political nature of our country. It's not based on professionalism. In the end, AB will go back. But what happened? Based on my assessment of this situation, AB really set this trap for these guys to fall into it. He set it up, and they just ran directly into it. So when they get fired, I blame them for it. But I don't agree with you that Fadiga is the one that
How?
manipulated this. He did not record. Listen to me, when you were speaking, I didn't speak.
Oh, give me
Fadiga
the
did not.
how.
Please,
Hold on, Mr.
one
Sharif.
second, 1 second. Based on what the information that he even posted on his personal page, he did not record this intentionally. It is his iPhone that captured the situation when they took one of his phone or two of his phones from him. He had to get it through the cloud. AB and others have worked in this system in Liberia. They know how to set people up. They know how to run you down. And once you don't bow down to them, they are going to run you into problem and you will leave. So this investigation will go up and come down. In the end, you will see AB going to the LDEA. These other guys will leave. But the bigger point here is that, are we respecting our rules and regulations that we have on the book? Or we are just appointing head of agencies that go with a team of people and you work based on what they tell you? This is why we've seen Mary Brown move from one place to the other. And every time she leaves, the institutional
Can I
framework
speak
that she
now?
set in place
Yeah,
are
man.
not sustainable when she
Yeah,
leaves.
that,
I'm
Yeah.
disappointed in you.
Can I speak
I'm
now?
Thank you.
disappointed.
Hold on. Dr. Douglas, everybody is talking about the investigation. Do you
No,
trust this investigation?
yeah, let's talk about the investigation. But my point is, in this whole thing, everything that happened is kind of incidental. People reacting to something that happened, like giving
reaction,
order that were not supposed to be given
reaction.
verbally and all of that. People react. So those are incidental reactions. The only thing really that matters in this issue is the letter written by the deputies to the Minister of Justice. That's a material incrimination of the DEA director. And that's where the investigation should go. Not to know what happened between AB and the two deputies, I don't think that matters really. They work together, they don't work together, that's up to the president. He can decide that. But I think the problem is the letter is the issue. When
Those
you
are grave.
accuse the
Those
director
accusations are
of being,
grave.
huh?
I said those allegations are
Yeah,
grave.
those allegations in the letter are the issue. If that can be proven, then the director could go to jail. If that cannot be proven, they could go face justice someplace else. I think that's the problem. I think that all those other things, the video, this and that, somebody because they had problem before. It doesn't matter. The letter is the issue. The letter is the crisis, and you can't dismiss it.
That was my question. If that pale in comparison, Honorable Greaves, what are you expecting from the investigation? What are your thoughts? Do you think we can get to the bottom of this and justice be done?
I think that they should get to the bottom of this, because we just play on the surface. The premise that led to the whole confusion, like just buttress Dr. Douglas and Connie, is very important, but before I go, let me digress a little bit. The transitional government, that was under Judy Bryant. That was a government formed by the combination, collaboration of all warring factions and political groups. So it doesn't mean that you didn't participate in the war because you served that government. I work in that government. I work in the
I was
chairman's
not
office.
under Judy Bryant, sir.
It was. Let me just finish, my friend. It was the
don't
transitional
mislead
government.
us.
We went to Accra.
AB didn't work under Judy Bryant. Don't mislead us.
Yeah, that was before.
Can I just finish?
But
Judy
you're
Bryant
misleading the
was
When I
public.
finish, you correct.
Call him out for this.
When I finish, you correct me.
Hold
Please.
on.
Let me leave my point. It was 2003 when we ended the war with Ulimo, not Ulimo, but the Alert Rebel group, Model, the government of Liberia, which was the MPFL government at the time,
Right.
headed by Louis Brown.
So let's get to the point.
No. It's important because I don't. Nobody.
AB, it was before AB.
So there's a problem. There's a problem we have on the show, Dennis. Don't cut me off, man. But let me let my point. Let my premise. I will talk. Don't rush me. Everybody got a chance to talk. It was under the transitional government when we went to Accra. We had a CBA agreement. All the warring faction, political leaders, the interest groups, civil society group formed a government under Judy Bryant. That was A.B. Kerman came from, I think, bombing or wherever he came to Monrovia, and he worked in that government with the finance minister or whatever. So let us not go back and forth. I work in the government. I know what I'm telling you. I was in the chairman's office. Now, lay out the rest. So it doesn't claim anybody for not participating in the war. Now, coming to this issue, I think we're playing on the surface. The issue here is the flagrant violation of the head of the agency, allegedly, that is documented so beautifully, and it's put in a place like, I know they have lawyers or whatever to help them. Now, the head of that agency does not have the power or authority under the policy that they function under to do any of those things he did, if it is proven that he did it. So that's the main issue they have here. And that's a grossly subordinate, not even to his office, but to the president's office, the office of the president, the authority of the president. Now we come to this whole thing. There might be at times where in character, and when I said his principal director has the right at any time to have audience with him, I didn't say they can just go knocking on his door and just open and walk in. No, but they should have. When I work as senior staff at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a general cabinet, I was told by the minister of McIntosh that I had his staff that any of the president, any assistant minister, deputy minister need his audience should have the free will to meet, except he's in a meeting. Exactly. So that's what he said. Those are government offices. Right? Those are government functioning offices. It's not a private office. No, you occupy the office and you will leave it. So now,
before you continue, that was based on how he set the tone. That's what he wanted. That was his policy. Oh, I have opened.
You do not set policies. That's what I'm telling you. It's wrong. But you do not come in. You do not set policies.
No, another one could come and say, "Hey, before you come, let me know that you're coming." There's nothing wrong with that, correct?
If you feel threatened by any of your colleagues, right? Or they're all colleagues. Now, line function is different. Operational function is different. But they're all colleagues. They're all appointed by the president. They all enjoy the same authority. If you feel threatened by them, don't call a meeting. Don't invite them to your office. Suspend that meeting. Seek advice from the Attorney General and lay the plight of why you feel disenchanted or you feel the certain way you feel. And then giving reason to don't invite them and disrespect them by using your staff to disarm them or raffle them and take their phones from them. Now, there's something we call in law, it's called demeanor evidence. Now, where they were wrong is the video that was shown, their altercation, the back and forth, the expletives that was sent in exchange. That's the only problem they have here that they will be disciplined for. But anything that is to the crux, to the premise of this whole thing that is alleged is the problem. It's the root cause. Now, in other case, there are people got different character. Some people will exercise restraint. They'll ask questions. So why are you inviting us to your office for a meeting? We are all senior staff. We are all presidential appointee. We have issues to resolve. And you are instructing your staff to disrespect us by disarming us and what have you. Why is it doing? Is that your policy? Who is responsible to formulate policies? All the policies there are pre-existing policies. All predated every one of them, and it's going to outdate every one of them. So no leader come in and make his own policy. The other person leave, the next person come and take their office and make their own policy. Then you don't have an office. Then you don't have an agency.
Thank you.
So what happened here? It was wrong. Like I said, flagrant violation. Allegedly, if those things are approved. Now, where they got wrong, where they have problems, is the demeanor evidence. Because in court, somebody slap you. You went and you took up because you're mad. They aggravated. They were the one that great assault. The assault. You took a stick and ran beyond it and stopped and beat them with it brutally and started using expletives and being out of character. That evidence will have some impact on your case. So in this case, that's the only reason. Maybe that's why they were suspended, because of their demeanor and because of the way. Because that's the office. The LB is also appointed by the president. So exercise restraint at all time, be impassive. Some people are very expressive, some people are emotional. So that's a different in character. So we should not get the whole thing wrong, you know. The crux is what is being alleged. That should be thoroughly investigated.
It will be. Thank you. And let me hear from someone who also bore arms. This whole thing with arms. And we talk about I was talking to the law enforcement officer and say, in fact, that's why it's good for each of these agencies to have their own legal team, at least have a lawyer, so that they can, talk about some of these things even before they escalate. Mr. Tule, we're talking about armed here, right? what's your experience going to your boss's office? Because do you
Yeah,
take
so
if he say don't bring arm, does that mean is disarming you?
so let me piggyback on what the previous the last what's his name, the lawyer
No,
Breeze.
talked about. Yeah, great.
there's
Yeah,
no
talked about, having access to the jury general office. Look, once you are staff of that office, first of all, before you are hired, you go through a lot of vetting process, right? Especially for an agency like the DEA, it's a sensitive area. They have to do background check and all of that if they actually do so that once you occupy a space, you are allowed. There's no restriction for where you go, how you go, whatever, because you have the credential, you have access to be everywhere, right? So there's no one on a special space. That's the government space, right? So when I was working as a student intern here in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Department of Justice, right? I was a student intern, right? I was doing almost literally everything. So I was working in the civil division, right? But we had an open door policy. We had stuff where I was vetted. I had a security clearance, right? So before you even access that building, you must have a security clearance. You must have a badge to have access to the building. So you need to have you should have, once you have all of those things, you are allowed to be in most of the spaces, right? I mean everywhere. You will go all the way up to the U.S. Attorney, to the U.S. Attorney office if you want to talk to him. Once he's not in a meeting, you are allowed to go. So just what he was saying. AB Kurman doesn't have the office doesn't belong to AB Kurman. It's a government space. Anyone can see him at any time, provided if he's available. So I just want to put that clear. With regards to arms, right? The only time you get restricted, right? Especially, you were trained to carry on fire to carry firearms. You went through the proper training. You got the certificate. To bear arms, right?
Sure.
And per the agency policy, you are qualified to carry arm anywhere in the building, right? Except where you were seen threatening or saying that you want to deal with people, you want to, kill people, something like that come out of your mouth, right? And someone overheard that, you were this angry and mostly like that, someone possessing firearm, they will have to go to they'll not just automatically, boss will not just automatically say, go ahead and just disarm that man. They don't do it. There are procedure that they take to say, we need to, bring this guy in a certain
if you tell
environment.
somebody don't bring arm in my
You're
office,
right.
it's not
You
disarmament.
cannot just get out of the blue and say, especially a man who is next to you in line, right? And
can't.
say you order your men to go and take away his weapon.
No, that
And
was
he
not
qual-
the start, right? The first one was do not come in with arm.
Yeah,
It
but
was
it has not been that way. He's always gone in a meeting with
yeah,
arms.
that's what I want to
So
say. So if
so
you say don't, if you come into my office, leave your guns in your office, is that considered disarmament?
He has no right. Yes, to disarmament.
it's like it's like
It's not stopping your right to bear arms just for this meeting.
no, but he's denigrating this man in front of his subordinates.
Thank you.
That alone could trigger something. So what I'm trying to say here is this, right? This thing has been in the pipeline for a very long time, right?
Mhm.
It was not resolved. Conflict within an organization is just not handled by it's handled by professionals, people who are trained to resolve conflict. In Liberia, we just don't pay attention to these things. They just do it like a kumbaya moment. You are a big brother. This is not. It's about professionalism. Come together. How you guys coexist. How you guys work in the interest of the agent and the country at large. This is what this entire thing should be focused on. But they weren't focused on that. They just lived on the surface, and that kind of spilled into something even bigger. And now it went so uncontrollable that it even undermined the very existence of that agency. So what I'm trying to say now is, in closing, is that the president took the right decision to to suspend them pending investigation.
Thank
But
you.
the letter that was written by Fadiga and whatever to the justice minister, they have to follow that case. They have to
That's
be
it.
adjudicated, and we should not discount that. There are some truth in that. Fadiga has made those allegations. I'm very sure he has, evidence, to back those allegations that he brought against Mr. Kroma.
Come on.
But one last thing,
move
Dennis,
to the next.
allow me to say this, right? Mr. Kroma is a professional guy, right? But his style of leadership, I have a little issue with it, right? I believe that separation of the duty, he has not allowed his men, his deputy, to function in their roles in the way they should.
But
Imagine.
how do you know that? How do you know that?
Allow me, let me say it, because that's what I'm going, right? And like every press conference from the time he has taken office, right? Every draw bust, and they have press conference or whatever. I have never seen Mr. Kroma sat in a press conference with his the deputy, allowing the deputy, because he's the one in charge of operation, right?
He
He's the
has.
one better suited to
He
sit. Hold on,
has.
let me speak. He's the one better
Oh
suited
my
to sit
God.
and explain to the public, the operation that led to the drug bust. Mr. Kroma won't be in a minute. Allow this guy to at least function,
Yes, he
and
has.
if there are questions posed that you need to answer, your deputy will refer it to you. But other than that, I just see AB Kroma, every drop on AB Kroma, he alone is on the camera doing everything and not even
Mr. Tule, let me
and
say
not even
something to
giving
you.
credence
I
to
don't want
those
to
guys.
interrupt you. Just give me 1 second. We all watch Law and Order, right?
There's a lot of people off.
The police does the work, and the DA goes and makes the press conference because he's the politician, the political head of the institution. That's how it works. We all watch TV every day.
No.
Love crime.
No. Excuse me. You have seen
Sometimes they might say,
investigation
okay,
here. Even in Gwinnett County that we are in, if there are certain kind
yeah,
of
but
drug,
is that a problem?
hold
Is
on,
that
let
a
me.
problem?
No. You
No,
have
I'm
to
saying,
bring
is that a problem?
you have to bring everyone in the room, especially that have parties that are involved with that particular arrest or stuff. And you allow, because
Okay, I'm
questions will be
sorry.
thrown.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Questions will be thrown from the press
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
that could be for the
What if
director or
what
for
if
the
I
guy who
told
led the operation
Thank you.
to that
Thank you. We gotta
arrest. So
move.
allow other people to function, and
I
that's
what
got
if
what I
I
I
told
saw
got
you
that
you.
he wasn't doing, and probably that may have led to Fadiga being angry, like, okay, this guy is not actually trying to make me do my
Okay,
job.
what if I
so
told what if I told you there
I
are tons
got
of
you.
videos? What if I told you there are
It's
tons of videos
visibility.
out there? What if I told you
This
there are
is
tons
so,
of videos
so
out there?
Mr. Cherry, I don't want us to get into that
this
a
is
lot.
no.
Dennis, I
I'm
thought
just
I
saying
thought
this
this
is
was Tough Talking Thursday.
No,
Now we're
I want to
moving
move on
on.
to the next because we've taken
Okay,
over
but
an
what
hour.
if I
That's what he
so
said.
let
so
me
let
make
me
my
say,
point.
Sheriff
Yeah,
Mohammed.
we've taken over an
It's
hour. I
okay.
want
It's
us to
okay.
move
Let's
on.
leave it.
What
I
if
mean,
what if I what if I
It's
told
okay,
you
Mohammed. Leave it. Leave it.
what
Salam
if I
alaikum.
told you that there are tons of
Mr.
videos
Cherry, we got
out
to move
there
on.
Go ahead.
with the deputy director sitting side by side with AB Kroma and giving him the opportunity to speak? Do you watch these guys, or you just this is
I do
you know,
watch it, but oftentimes AB
you
Kroma
don't
is the only one having
you
the
don't
conversation
based on
with the press.
Mr. Tule, based on your
Mr. Cherry,
response,
we
you
got to move
don't.
on. Mr. Cherry, we
You
got to move
don't.
on.
Okay, we gotta move on. We
I
gotta
don't
move
think
on.
you
We
did.
gotta
Because
please.
before you are charged with insubordination. Right, we got to move on. I mean, sometimes the DEA is sometimes they are even talking about rehabilitation. I say, come on now, you guys are going too far. So there has been some other areas where the DEA is kind of overstepping. They want to be psychologists and all, and social counselors. So they should stop
And
it.
they make it
But
appear that they are the only ones to fight drug in Liberia, which
yeah,
is not true.
because this is
Exactly. And you do not, and no, as an agency like the DEA, you do not come to on spoon or whatever and just spew. As a director, certain information has to remain classified. You do not say, okay, my subordinate did that, he will be reprimanded. Certain things you tell the interviewer, look, this is a classified information that need not to be in the public. But AB Command spew out everything, like everything, literally. He
Thank you,
does
Momo.
it.
We gotta
I
go.
think you don't like
We
AB.
gotta go to
Oh
our
no!
next
Why
topic,
would you say that?
which
Why
is
would you say that?
which is the Africa Korea Summit, right? There have been a lot of summits going on, right? The Africa Russia. Sometimes you think that Africa is a country, right? Africa Russia Summit, Africa. Dr. Douglas,
Yeah.
I don't think these summits just started, but I'm hearing about them more than ever before. What they are about?
These things started back in the 1980s or something, 70s. France had these first meetings with the Francophones. And then the Commonwealth, British people had their own meetings. And then soon after that, everybody started getting into it. So I wrote about this thing so many times in French, in fact, published in Jeune Afrique. This is the dumbest thing that African leaders do. I can say I went to 3 of them. I went to 2 of these meetings. I went to Japan, Abidjan, and also Kenya. I remember in 2016, we went to the AU meeting. Professor Lee was giving the head of the African Common Position. I was heading that program. And then from there, we went to Japan to the same meeting. And I don't remember anything from that place except that I was running at 5 o'clock in the morning. I kept running, and everybody stopped. This was 5 o'clock in the morning. I said, why are people stopping? The man said, no, this is light. I said, but there's no car. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. He said, no, we don't cross. I remember that from Japan. But I don't remember a damn thing from the whole meeting. Oh, yeah, somebody, they show us a meeting. They show us a machine that was printing intake cloth right there in front of us. And we met who? Nobody, really. The president made with few group, but everything that was done
why were you there? Why were you there? What was the purpose? Why were you convinced as Liberia that you needed to attend this meeting? What were you supposed to accomplish?
Well, everything that Liberia got in that meeting in Tokyo had already been agreed upon in Monrovia. The Japanese highway, some support for justice system and all of those things. It had already been concluded. So these meetings are more for the country that received them. It's a PR for the country, for the government that received them. You spend $50 million on a big intercontinental PR, and it works. Because a lot of times they pay the transportation for some poor countries. All your hotels, food, transportation on the ground is paid for. And the meetings with head of corporations, you set up meetings, and it's a good networking place. The funny thing that I remember from 2016 in Addis, AU meeting, there were like 40 or 35 to 40 head of states. But we went to Japan, every single one was there. They didn't go to the AU meeting, but they flew to Japan with their private jets to go beg for crumbs.
Thank you. Honorable Greaves, is it to beg for crumbs? And why are we not having this on African soil? Normally, you go to Korea, for all 50 or more African countries to get stuff from Korea. Is that a point? Why is it not country to country? Why is it country to continent?
I think that's the problem we have as most of our African leaders in our continent. And that's why we have been so relegated to a level because for me, I've been in diplomacy, I know exactly how we're referred to in these situations. There are too many of these kind of things, Dennis, and we don't see the results. We hear about all the summits, and then we hear the big news and the news propaganda and all that, and then afterwards everything dies. We wait for another period, and another group will call us. Russia call us, yeah, we run there. The US call us, we come running here. It's almost like we're like servants. And now, what these people employ in diplomacy, we call it coercive diplomacy. Now, they operate covertly as well as overtly. They come with that interest, well-defined, well-tailored. They know what they want. Their interest is always at the mark. So they put it before you, have the big pageantry and nice hotels and all of that, and make all these promises that are never fulfilled because they know we do not prioritize our own values and prioritize our own needs. So what they do is that they put all of that junk in front of us, and then persuade us to ask for a little, something that was not really sometimes fulfilling, and that's how they get across. So they win. That interest is put forth on the table. Just the idea, even if they got nothing for our continent, nothing for our country, just the idea that they can then assemble dozens of our leaders on their shore is a plus for them already, a big boost for them. So I think we have to start redefining, looking at our objectives and prioritizing our foreign policy agenda, what we really need for our continent, and how can we use this medium, which is very powerful too as well, if we use it wisely to benefit us. Because I will tell you, sure, like Dr. Douglas said, I've been to several of you. I think maybe I've been to one or two with him. It's sad.
Sad. Mr. Sharif, let's put on your history hat here. I mean, where does this all come from? And is there a national security implication here for you have all our leaders going to one country? I mean, what does that tell us? And really, what are we hoping to accomplish? Maybe we could have this in Abuja or Monrovia or somewhere. I mean, you have 50 presidents going there. Why not the one Chinese ambassador or the Korean president come to Gabon or somewhere?
Right, because we are beggars. We are perpetual beggars. So every time a pot of money is shown to us, we go there for it. I mean, Israel, we go to Israel for money. We borrow from China. We borrow from Japan. We borrow from Korea. We borrow from everywhere. We borrow from the United States. We borrow from multilateral institutions. We borrow from the World Bank. I mean, we borrow from everywhere. African Development Bank and all. Everywhere you can find money, we borrow, and we're not good managers of our own money. We overpay everybody. Mr. Greaves would tell you that. Those who work in government will tell you. I mean, people are absolutely overpaid, and nothing is done about it. And so what we do is we get this money and we pay ourselves. We upkeep staff, and then we go to the summit. These summit really. I don't know the benefit of these summits, right? So every time you go to a summit, and they use it as an occasion though to lead these big delegations. So you have the president will take sizable delegations to the Africa U.S. summit, or the Russia Africa summit. Now it's the Korea Africa summit. So they go to these summits. At the end of the day, no one is going to come back in 3 years to tell you exactly what the outcome of this summit was, and what the benefit was to the people of Margibi County, for example, or to the people of Nimba County, for example, right? Nobody's going to come back in 3 years with a result, with a proven result, to say, this is the result of the summit. Even you're not going to see any concrete outcome of it. So I really don't think there's a need for these summits. But heck, they continue to do it. And it goes to the bigger question of just we are borrowers. I mean, we are beggars to begin with. And it's a shame that we're beggars, because there's a lot in Liberia. There's a lot in Africa. Liberia is a very wealthy country. We don't even need to borrow money if we're managing this country well. There's no need to borrow. I mean, there are tons of money around. So if we stop paying ourselves these exorbitant, salaries and stuff like that, and better manage, Liberia will be a great country. And to your question about the summit, I don't think there's a need, their need for these summits.
Can I add something to that?
Economy.
1 second. Let me give you one example. We're all talking about the same thing here. I remember we went to Kenya. Japan came to Kenya. It was Africa-Japan meeting in Kenya. I was there. President Sirleaf got to meet with him, the Japan Prime Minister, and of course the President of Kenya, because she knew him when he was growing up. So they had a meeting. But you know how many presidents the Japanese president met? 6 or 7. You had to be on a list in Africa to meet the Japanese Prime Minister in Africa. And they were all there. I was there.
Yeah.
Thomas, I think there could be economic benefits if you put yourself in the position, right? Like there are other countries walking away with billions of dollars from Korea, but not us. So let's talk economics here, and what, as a country, what you need to do to get that money.
So I will just build on what the previous speaker said. For me, when I look at what is happening, especially with the context of the Korea Africa Summit, I mean, it gives you this signal that we are moving into this people in foreign relations call it multipolar world, where you have a lot of countries now springing up and coming up that are becoming pockets of powers themselves. And if you look at many of those countries that are actually stressing out there, they are coming from Asia. You have the India projected to be the third economy, maybe a couple of decades from now. The projection is that China will overtake the US, India will be second, and I think the US will be third. That's a battle that they are going through. But you have the Koreas of this world coming up. Until the economy for Turkey was not doing well, they were growing very fast. And so you have these summits not only taking place between Africa and the West, like the US and France and Great Britain, but they are now going to Asian countries. So you have, I think 2014, when I was in India in school, they had similar one, either around 2014 or 2015. They had the India-Africa Summit. So I think the point I'm making here is that we continuously see that, and some of these countries are very small countries, maybe not even up to a state in Nigeria. But because they have done well historically, they've built their economies and they've grown, the Malaysias and Singapores of this world, and everything that they did to get to where they are is open book. People have written books about it, but we cannot take it to replicate it to become what they are. And therefore, every year they call these summits and all of our leaders leave Africa to go there. And the concerns that we are raising here today are concerns that African leaders themselves have been raising. I've listened to the president of Kenya. I was even surprised that he attended this event. And he said, what we are doing here is something that we should not be doing. We should not sit for one country to call the whole of Africa and we go to them. If they want to have a summit with us, let them come to us. But again, we see all of them going there. But coming to your question about what do we do if there is anything to get out of that, it has to be something that you do. I think people say the best foreign policy is your domestic policy. If you cannot do the work back home for people to take you serious, like they are taking the Rwandan president of this of age and time with all of his records on governance, but people take him seriously because they see how he's moving his country out of poverty and moving it forward. Since the Civil War ended, I went to school and graduated. I've not seen a foreign policy for Liberia. You won't hear it on radio. It's economic diplomacy. Where is the document? What is our strategy for dealing with Asia that is becoming powerful year after year? What is our strategy for dealing with Europe? You have assistant ministers at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for all of these regions. But what are the policies guiding us? We don't see it. Everyone talks about it. So if we can sit down home and really do the heavy lifting, we'll just be moving from one summit to the other. And anybody that is getting anything out of this summit, like you said, like Doc said, they have to be planned and consummated before you get to the conference. So if you just go to the conference and anybody think that you are going to sign an agreement, it doesn't work that way. Any agreement that Kenya has signed, it has already been consummated before they got there. So if Liberia cannot sit home and do the work that we need to do, we'll just be running helter-skelter. The foreign minister is doing well, she's moving around, but I think she needs to sit down and draft and write out a foreign policy for Liberia, especially in this multipolar world. I think we need a very competent team to run our foreign policy.
Thank you. Mr. Tule, our president probably has attended more of these summits than other summits. Like, I think he skipped the one for Africa. He went to the Dallas one, now Korea.
Yeah. So, there's a phrase that coined, there's a phrase that says coined is desperate time calls for desperate measures, right? You've seen that, and I do agree with every one of, the previous speakers, right? You see, Liberia, a country with a bad credit rating, right? You tend to find ourselves in situations where we are desperate for help, but one thing we often forget about is that, the previous, the last speaker just said, you have to put your house in order, right? Let's start to fight corruption in our country, like we started this whole asset recovery, going after the money, going after those who were in power, who stole from the nation coffers. Try to recover our asset institute, all these things, the War and Economic Crimes Court. Let the world out there see that we are serious about business, serious about putting our house in order, right? And then because most of these summit that we go to, most leaders that where we go and ask and beg for assistance and stuff, because no, just human Parker actually went over there maybe, to tap into the technology in industry that that Korea has, that they are so powerful for, that maybe he could bring, he could ask for that assistance so that Liberia can benefit from that. But equally so, there are other African nations that are also competing for the same, and most of them already had good credit rating. Some of them are trying to improve their economy. They are vigorously fighting corruption, and there are people going behind bars for stealing from the national coffers. When in Liberia, what have we heard or seen anyone go behind bar for stealing a state fund? None of such has happened for as long as I've been around. I'm 44 years old now. I've not seen that. So I believe we should first of all focus on our domestic policy. Focus on what is.
Brian went to jail.
Oh man, that was just one instance, and yeah. But we have to be very serious about. We have to be very serious about fighting corruption, and then try to lower our debt stock. We are a country that have over $1 billion of debt on our head. Yeah, $3 billion. That's a lot. We need to begin to put some serious efforts together, or some policies together, craft some policies together where we can try to now to see how best we get. There are a lot of people who work in period government that are moving around, that with stolen money. Let us institute that, just like Human Parker institute this whole issue about asset recovery, go after the money people who are stolen, and this whole issue of war and economic crimes court. We can't even hear about it. These things have to be put in place, and you got 6 years will soon come and go. When is it going to actually start? So we have to be serious rather than taking all our government officials on the backs of our taxpayer money, taking them just to listen for informational purpose, nothing else. When they come back, it'll be 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We will never get any sort of dividend from those some summits. So I think we have to be serious.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. We are discussing the LDEA Fracas and the Korea Africa Summit. If you want to be part of the conversation, please call the number that's on your screen. That's 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Mr. Kane, before our callers come in, let's bring this home, right? We talk about the LDEA Fracas, and now we're talking about the Korea Africa Summit. We have a president, right? What is the reflection on the president? Does this look like same old, or business as usual, or we are heading somewhere, or we're just doing the same old, same old?
The reason why when I came on, I was talking about this issue of hiring people and just putting them on the payroll, it goes to this very point of just increasing the public sector wage bill. Because basically what we do in Liberia is we pay people, there is no money for them to work, and then we just keep moving on, and we're not making progress. So this is why the rules and regulations that are laid down, regardless of who is head of agency, they're supposed to follow these rules and regulations. Somebody earlier spoke about our debt. It's extremely huge. We still need to borrow because we're not raising domestic revenue. When you say people pay taxes, they're not paying. The ones that pay, they go and audit them. People pass behind the door, they go and make deals with them. They only pay a portion of it. So we have a lot of work to do to be able to move this country forward. I've heard the phrase over and over again, not business as usual. But to me, to say not business as usual means really going back to our rules and regulations. Are there changes that we need to make? Are there institutions, new institutions we need to bring on board, for instance, to help us move forward? Are there old institutions that are no longer needed that we need to get rid of? Our rules, our policies that were developed 10, 15 years ago around mining, around employment, around public financial management, can we go back to be able to change them? When we change these things, then people see us to be very serious. because of the changes that we are making and solid outlook of how our policy framework is. But we can sing the song forever, no business as usual, no business as usual. But when somebody comes in and it's the same thing that they did 5 years ago when they were there, you do the same thing, then it really doesn't matter whether you're saying it's business as usual or not. So to me, if we say it's not business as usual, we really need to reflect that in the work that we do and the quality of work that we do, not just saying it from one conference to the other.
Thank you. Dr. Duke, you spoke to most of that in your random thoughts this week. You ended by saying the greatest hazard for JNB is to have his arrest agenda diluted in the great pepper soup of coalition, compromise, and accommodation.
Yeah.
That seems to me that you are saying business as usual.
Well, not business as usual, but I think the government is heading. There are too many pretenders, too many people who take credit for the government being there. So he formed a coalition with strong actors, strong political actors, and who have their own agenda. And those, and they're looking at Bouaka, he's not going to run in 2029, so we're going to pull this thing to ourselves. So everybody is in fighting. So there's a government that is working, but it's not focused on the arrest agenda of the Unity Party. And as I said in the same article, if you read it, I mean, the 5 ministries or 4 ministries or what we call sovereignty ministries are not under Unity Party control. Defense, Foreign Ministry, Finance, and what else? Ministry of State. There's a fourth one. Internal. They're not internal affairs, but those things, yeah. So that's a problem. That's a problem that Bouaka faced. It's not a problem that he made, but that is a problem that brought him to power. And how you deal with it, I don't know. So things like what happened at DEA will happen everywhere. People say, "Oh, I don't want this man. No, I don't want that guy. No, I don't want that guy. The president sent me here. No, the president didn't send you. Who sent you? Who appointed you?" In a very strong administration with a strong political party behind it, you don't have those kind of issues. Unity Party may be strong, but it's being diluted in the coalition. That was my point. And that weakens the arrest agenda.
Let me bring in our caller so we can stay within time here. We have one caller for now. Caller, your name and where you calling from. And that caller, of course, Evers Morris, go ahead. You're live.
Thank you, Mr. John, and hello to the panelists. When it comes to the LDEA, I blame President Bouaka, and I think we are taking the spotlight off him. We saw the history of missteps when it comes to personnel, being nominated for different positions in his government. He delegated the responsibility of such a sensitive position to A.B. Kumar because he didn't vet the deputies that was coming into that agency. We have people saying that they encouraged A.B. Kumar to hire Fadiga who had never worked in Liberia, any security agency in that country, was brought in. It's such a sensitive position to be head of operation. People who he doesn't have a rapport with. He doesn't understand the SOP and the TOR of the agency, and he's there. So the reality is President Bouaka should have did some very, very strong vetting and really should have hired from within the agency. People who have been there for years, who have the history, who understand, the agency very well. But since it was the former president, we had LDEA, he had to revamp it, bring his own people from outside. And that's one of the problems that we have in that country. Lack of trust from the predecessor. You have to change everybody because you don't trust them. So President Bouaka should be the one to blame for this fracas. But thank you,
Thank you. Let me bring him Aliyu Samba Kamara. Aliyu, you're live.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you for having me. Look, one of AB's problem is that because of his passion to fight drug, he has become a macro manager. And when you do that, you tend to leave with iron hand. You cannot just, formulate your idea as to how you want to run the LDEA and expect others to just conform. I think ego is playing a part in here. I believe that those two guys were wrong. I believe that they were definitely wrong, regardless of what happened. They were wrong. But I think there was some precipitating, I think, that led to that. However, the action was uncalled for. But then I just want to be a character witness here for AP Kuma. AP never fought for Ulimo. AP was never chief of staff of Ulimo. AP had no affiliation with Lord Rebel. So Massa Washington told a story. It was just one of those things like Buffalo Dollar. They say Buffalo Dollar was a rebel. They caught him in jail. Buffalo never fought war. I was a young boy when they came to it. It's just like Dr. What is it? The former finance minister, former environmental whatever control director general, Dr. Tabata. He was finance minister under Alhaji Kuma. What was one say? We say he fought for Cuba because Alhaji Kuma appointed him. So that was wrong. But yeah, but no. Those two guys need to be fired at Venice. What they did was inappropriate. Period.
Thank you. And what about your letter? You think that letter, Michelle? You think there's some credibility to it?
Well, it's not really matter what I think there's a credibility there. What I do know for a fact is that because of national security issues, that letter must be taken seriously, and they should investigate with regard to that letter. But for what I know, it is that letter is based on assumption. It's based on perception. It's not true.
Thank you. Let me bring in a Unity Party enthusiast, Mr. Flomo Livingston. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ja. Great show. Thanks, panelists. For me, the president made the right decision for, suspending those guys.
Do you think it was late? He was not decisive enough? They say, when they pop balling, we can see you, but when it start burning, we don't. Then that's the time we raise the alarm.
Mr. Ja, as a leader, you don't react quick. You're not going to react as a leader.
You want to close the fence after the guinea pigs finish or destroying the rice? Is that what you do?
Nobody on the third and on the fourth, you make a decision.
It's been happening for 1 month now. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but that one is they scared of talking. For me, look, the AP, I realize AP is not a good administrator. I don't think he's a good administrator because his role, everything he want to be speaking on behalf of the LDEA, I don't think he should be doing that because I know Fadiga said, and Fadiga is the director of operation. So each time you want to do something, raise certain ghetto or certain places, he said the DA boss, tell them to step down, which I think that's completely wrong because he pretty much handicapping the man job, what to do. And for me, I don't think they should. I don't think the president should bring him back because if you bring AP back, it will bring some problems because people will think that you're not serious importing drugs because there's some serious allegation in those letters. I think should be investigated by who's the boss for them?
The Justice Ministry.
The Ministry of Justice. Yeah, the Ministry of Justice. Hopefully, can try to go through that and see. I'm not saying he did it, but hopefully they can do it. But I think the president did the right decision.
Thank you. And you're concerning about being. Because that's all in law enforcement, right? You can be friends with the some of the drug laws, and that's how you get information. I think Mr. Tule should know something about that. I'm not saying, but the security people I talked to, they said, well, it's not all wrong to have these people as friends. That's how you get information without them.
But sometimes you can have informant out there, right? That doesn't mean you are friends with them. You send sting operation, right? In this area, there's no head of any security agency to be a friend.
And you said no.
There's nothing that's being friendship with people who want to destroy the country, to destroy the economy. All you do is pretend to be friend, but you are not friend, and you run sting operation in order to, achieve, the organization mission, and that's what should be done. But that letter needs to be carefully. Those allegations have to be they have to be investigated, and it should be followed through. Whether AP comes back to the agency or not, that remains with the president. But for me, if you personally ask me, that entire leadership should not come back. There are so many qualified Liberians out there. And to the other caller, you don't have to work in Liberia before to be able to be effective in Liberia. There are a lot of law enforcement professionals here, people who study security here that can come back to Liberia, who lived in Liberia before and been here for a while, that can go back to Liberia and be very effective. It has to do with policy, the institutional policy, not one man trying to be the Goliath. It doesn't work that way.
Would you
That
go
will
back?
help. That will
Would you
help.
go
But
back?
if I buy into that, then I will undermine
Would
my
you
own
go back
position.
to play?
Right.
I have a very good job with the Department of Defense right now, right? So, I'm a proud son of Lofa County. I was born and raised in Liberia. I came here barely 15 years ago. So, I love my country. I serve here in the U.S. Army.
Would you
That
go
same
back?
thing I've been serving with the U.S. government.
The short answer is yes.
I am
And
not, I'm not, right now we have to focus on what the president, how the president going to investigate this matter at the DEA. Not about me right now. We want our country back on par. That agency is not just about Liberia. Fighting drug crime is a global fight. It's not just local.
Thank you. Thank you. And I wouldn't go with Elvis, because if we say you got to live in Liberia, then I will undermine my own chances as superintendent of Sino. So I wouldn't go that far. I know it helps. Okay, Thomas and then Mohammed.
On that issue, there is this general feeling in the government of Liberia. Every time you come from a different sector, they will just shut you down. Even if you don't come from out of Liberia, you come from a development sector. By the time you enter this agency, they say, you think that NGO will run here? That government here or that NGO here? So even to bring innovation within the government institutions, it becomes difficult. Because you come from the private sector, they say, oh, that company will run here. So it's almost like once you've not entered this public sector and grow up, they have no time for you. They will not listen to you. And then where are we going to get innovation from? Where are we going to think outside the box? So that's very serious. You come from America, they say, oh, they're not America here. You come from an NGO, they say they're not NGO here. So in the end, we just keep doing the same thing that we've been doing.
Thank you. Mohammed, 1 minute, and then Honorable Green, 1 minute.
Experience counts for something. What Elvis was saying there was, this man, the deputy director, has no experience in that area. So, and it shows now, the fact that he has no experience. He has been childish throughout his tenure, which is why he's going to lose his job. And when he loses his job, I'm not saying he's not going to land back on his feet.
Before you eat your words.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's not going to land back on his feet. He's probably going to land back on his feet because that's Liberia. But I do know one thing is that Abraham Nkrumah has been, and I'm not a big fan of his, but he's been in law enforcement for decades. So this is a guy with passion, as Leo said. He has the passion to do the job everywhere he's been. I mean, he has been over passionate, in fact. So what do you want in Liberia now? Do you want some docile individual just sitting there not doing anything, collecting the paycheck, which is what's going on for the most part? Or you want someone who's very passionate about his or her country? And I think Abraham Nkrumah is very passionate about his country.
And passion alone will not cut it, right?
Right, it won't cut it, but passion counts for something.
All right, thank you. Honorable Greaves, your 1 minute, and then we go to our next segment, which is...
Yeah, to begin with that, just to be on the record, A.B. Nkrumah is a trained law enforcement officer with great experience, as well as the academic credential, I think. I don't know this personally, but I've heard a lot about him. I've seen his work. I've heard people talk about him now. So it's nothing to put him down. The problem here is not who is appointed in government. It's not who is appointed in certain positions. It's the level of coordination, collaboration, the decency, the ethic, and the values that you bring to these institutions. All of these institutions needs no change. All of these institutions need no additional help. They're already established. There are policies and guidelines already on the books. So you bring John Brown from America, Peter Paul from Japan, or whatever you just got to be disciplined and follow the ethical values of the agency, the institution. Follow the rules, follow the policies. It's enshrined. And you that are supervisor or overseer, you are not there to make rules. You are not there to make policies. All you are there to do is what? You're the frontline managerial person who's responsible for the overseeing of the operation of the agency. So those operations, those functions are already established. Like there are already specific tax-related instructions to every function, from the operation to administration to the legal, as well as the boss himself. So with that, his focus only is what should be to execute what is already on the books, not inventing. And that's a problem we find ourselves. It's not a matter of qualification or not being qualified, experience or not experience. It's the leadership ability, the understanding of what you are charged to do, and how your interpersonal skills will relate to your colleagues and officers, even subordinates. Teamwork. Drug enforcement agency is not a unilateral group. It's not one person can put the whole load on his shoulder and solve the problem in Liberia. No way. It's a teamwork. You even got to work with other agencies. So we know we do not invent or we do not manufacture explicit conduct or drugs in our country. All those things are traffic. So you need to get immigration. You need to have a line working function.
Let me push you a little bit. I know you've gone back to these policies, and I don't mean to put you in the spot, but do you have some specific citations about these policies that you say already exist, that AB shouldn't formulate any new policy? Can you cite any policy related to that?
Look at the manual that you asked me. Look at the manual. It's a public document. The manual that governs the agency, what tells you everything, all the functions already lined up. Some of the things you even read. Some of the things you even read on the show. It's enshrined within the policy. And those are legal binding mandatory policies that they all must follow. Now, the only problem with the deputies, I will tell you, I said some people act indifferently. Some people are impassive. Some people are very expressive. Some people can hold an emotion. Some people can't. So when that chaos took place at his office, that confrontation that led to these deputies being involved and having to burn the penalty, to face the penalty they're facing right now, was their reactionary course, the way they approach the issue. I will not engage in expletive exchanges. I will not hurt, abuse it. I will not defy. I will not fight. I will just recall the issue, make sure it's documented, his flagrant violation of the policy, and his self-imposed restriction, document all of those things, ask specific questions, and leave. That would have put him in a better position. But the altercation and pushing back and all of that have put them in a position where they're facing today as what we call demeanor evidence. Because anybody looking at that video will say, oh, you guys do not have the right deportment. They didn't exhibit it. But chaos caused that, tension caused that, emotion caused that.
Thank you. And these are things that can be easily proven. We'll check with the CSA, Mr. Josiah Jokai, to see whether those people, the civil servants at the DA, they went through the CSA or they were put there by Mr. Krumah alone. Dr. Douglas, you have 30 seconds. You were saying something I want to, and then we move to our Tabata session.
No, but I think we are putting too much emphasis on the wrong issue. I think the whole incident, the whole incident in the office was a byproduct of a crisis of confidence in the organization that came from the letter that was sent to the Ministry of Justice. So that's where I think that's where we need to focus on. Supremacy. That letter needs to be investigated, to see this guy lying on AB, or AB is culpable of those things. Then the president can make a right decision as to where to go. Thank you. I don't think that, I think the whole incident in the office, Mr. Ambassador, I agree with you at one point. Yes, they should have, because they knew ahead of time that he didn't want Gun to come. Because Mr. Fadiga said, the other deputy called him and said, oh, he said we shouldn't bring guns. So he knew before he left his office. And that's the point you say, okay, if I can't bring my gun, then I'm not going to the office. I'm not going to the meeting because of this. And you should not go either. I think that should have closed the issue. And then
go with a gun and see the reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you write a letter to the minister. Yeah. You write a letter to the minister and say, yeah, this is what happened.
And I just got a text that our security agencies are not covered by the CSA.
No, they're not. No, but they're all presidential.
Which CSA? We
No, the
CSA.
three of them. The three of them
The
are
civil
all
service
presidential
agency.
appointees. No, they're presidential appointees. So
Oh, they got oversight of the justice ministry, all the paramilitary institutions,
the
and they have their
presidential
own
appointees don't have to.
policies that they run on.
Yeah, but
That is enshrined with
the presidential appointee don't have to go through the GSA
civil.
system.
No,
Not the appointees, not the deputies.
No, but
But the
there's an
deputies
issue
have
that
the
what if,
deputies,
they
because
have their own training and recruitment guidelines and
Okay.
policies.
I understand, but only for the agent. What if you have civilian working within this agency, like the accounting and what? They should be covered by the CSA.
No, they
yeah,
generally
no. I think there's
Yeah,
a level.
generally.
No, excuse me. There's a level. The director, the two deputies are appointed by presidential appointment, but made by the president. But everybody else is through the CSA. Only the three.
Who is everybody else? The DA officers?
No. Everybody else beside the two directors, the two deputies, and the director who are
Yeah.
appointed by the president. Everybody else goes through the system of civil service.
The rank and file.
Yeah.
And the
generally,
agents,
can I make a
But you
point?
can recruit. No, they can recruit people. I mean, if you can recruit anybody, you could say, I want 10 informants. I want 10 people at the border. You can do that, depending on
and
his budget.
the policy specified recruitment and employment, and and recruitment and staffing on that, the agents. So it's not something that anybody have to guess. It's on the books. It's right there. How you recruit, how you send to the academy, what the vetting process is, how they are checked, what requirements are required, the criteria, everything is set and fixed. And it's a teamwork that work with that in collaboration with the Justice Department,
Okay,
with the Justice Ministry.
Mr. Grip, this is my time talking now, but I would just mention the fact that if you have, thank you. If you have a system, you have the DA running, where do you run an agency like the DA without the capacity to recruit people that don't go through the normal system?
I'm not speaking of agents.
No. Yeah, I'm not talking about the. I'm just saying he has the latitude to recruit people he wants to work with.
No, the agents are recruited this way. The team is set up from the resource are the one who do the vetting. They submit the names and everything to the resource director, to the
confidential informant.
Let me just end. They submit the names.
It's my time. It's my time.
How long you're talking? Ask a question, I'll answer you. I will give it back to you. I will give it back to you. The names are submitted. The names are submitted to the deputy for administration. Wait, man. The names are submitted to the deputy for administration. The deputy administration, in consultation with the director general, go through the whole process. They fine tune it, cross the I's, double the T, and whatever, and do that recommendation and proposal to the AG.
Mr. Greaves.
The AG gets it, we go there and approve it, the recruitment takes place.
Dennis, can I make a point?
If you're head of the DA tomorrow, you have your own layer of informant that has nothing to do with the office.
With the CSA.
No, you have to.
If you have
No, you don't.
Hold on
No,
now.
you are. You do.
I didn't get that. I'm sorry. I didn't get that.
All right. Hold on. Thomas, I give you 1 minute and then we're going to.
So generally, the security sector institutions are not covered by the CSA standing regulations. The reason is that when people are in the civil service, you can't just, there are certain regulations that cover them. For instance, you can't just fire them. You can, at certain level in the civil service, you cannot demote people. If somebody is a director and you're changing their position, you have to move them to another director position. But these things are not applicable to the security sector institutions. The only time they were brought into the fold was during the harmonization. They brought together all those that are working for the government, and they brought them together to harmonize the pay, but they are outside. But then there are still processes that you have to follow. For instance, before you recruit anybody, you have to work with the Ministry of Finance to make sure that there is an amount in the budget, on a specific budget line for which you are recruiting these people and you are able to pay them. You cannot just say, I will hire people because I'm working in the security sector institution and be able to pay them out of pocket. So you are not covered by the CSA regulation for your agents and everything. This is why somebody does something in the police, for instance, today, they will disrobe them. They just fire them. You can't do that in the civil service. But the point I wanted to make was that we agree that government institutions are established by act. They have regulations in place, but these regulations and procedures are evolving. So to just say, okay, you go to an institution, you don't need to change anything, it's already there, is not true.
Right.
Because the public sector itself is evolving. As times are changing, these institutions, the rules and regulations have to evolve. So you need creativity, you need innovation for people to bring to this institution, not just to go there and say, this is why the institution, if that was the case, then why do we create new institution, or why do we change the act that created the institutions? And
Yeah,
these head
but
of agencies, one second, these head of agencies do actually make policies. There are policies that made within the broader framework of the rules and regulations that we have. On the issue of the gun, for instance, if you don't want anybody to bring an arm to your office, is there a policy that you work with that was adopted? Or you just sit down in the morning and say, from tomorrow, nobody will bring arm in my office. Where do you expect them to leave their arm? If it is missing, you will disrobe them. So I think there has to be policies to guard what actions we take in these institutions.
Thank you. Ladies and
so
gentlemen, this is Tough Talking Thursday, and we are discussing the LDEA Fracas and the Korea African Summit. At this time, we are 2 hours, so we're going to go to our Tabata session. Every week, there is some Tabata going on. Tabata in Southeastern or the crew-speaking language means nonsense. Mr. Sharif, is there any nonsense you noticed during the week?
I think I don't know, maybe it was 2 weeks ago that the CDC people said that the president should fire the minister of state without portfolio because she was corrupt. Like, really, CDC is saying to fire somebody because they are corrupt. I mean, is that even does that even make any sense? CDC calling on Boaka to fire Mamaka Ability because of corruption. Well, CDC is the father of corruption. So
Corruption
they
was
can't.
living before CDC was born.
CDC, okay, CDC is the grandson of corruption.
Thank you. Let me go to Honorable Greens for his Tabata of the week.
All right, crossroad me, I'm not ready yet.
Okay, Dr. Dukley.
My Tabata of the week is definitely refugees returning from Ghana, and they put them into these huts or something that was leaking, water was running over the head, and they went to the conference and said most of them are drug addicts, some of them are crazy. So that was, I said, wow, way to welcome refugees back home.
What?
And then they came out and said, oh no, the other man lies, not 60%, it's 30%, it's something. And I saw myself because I was on the camp. I could have been repatriated if I were not lucky to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the condition where there's, the house they slept in, the water running, people walking around with a mattress on their head.
And you were blaming Ghana for ill-treating them. Now you are even treating them worse. Thomas, what's your Tabata of the week?
So, Itamami?
No, you'll be practicing. Thomas, your Tabata of the week.
There's this video on social media. I don't know which country it comes from, where the pastor is prophesying to a lady, and then she says everything about her. You see, the body you got is your mother's body. You should have traveled, but it's because of your mother you didn't travel. And then he gets to a point, and he says something about even where she is, she looking at what you are doing. Then the woman said, "But no, my mother died." So you see the pastor putting a hand on his head. So it's like prophecy gone bad. So it was just a kind of Tabata to me. And then I think about the former religious advisor to the president collecting money from people that he will help them to go to Australia. There's just too many crazy things happening in the country. So
the $700 to go to get a
yeah,
visa
to go to Australia.
That's pastor of the president.
Yeah.
Mr. Tule, what's your Tabata of the week?
So my Tabata of the week had to do with the issue of Migdala Cooper, the president political advisor, issue with her husband, ex-wife coming, claiming that she's still married to, I mean, just the fact that he was putting the entire family business, the personal business out there. He had the audacity to come on Spoon to talk about his personal life. I think it was just one of the greatest Tabata I've ever come across.
Thank you. And by the way, the wife or ex-wife will be on Focus on Liberia this Sunday. You want to tune in. So we want to get to the bottom of the story.
Hey
Honorable
man,
Grace.
these the
What
people
is the
like
story there?
the man say now his wife.
Yeah,
What
The
is
so
the
man, the
right?
man
What
said
is the
that, but the
story?
woman said is still married. Mandela
Well,
Cooper said that her husband. So the man like, I live for a long time. I'm not I say I'm not married to her. So so that was a lot of
Right. So there's no story. Where's the story?
the story ends with him. He said he's the one who determined whether he's married or not.
you say he's not married. He said I'm not married. Yeah,
it's
so
a story you said which story?
Where's the story? And the woman said, "I still want you. I don't want you, but I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy,
The
Have you
story
heard from the
ended
woman?
here.
huh?"
Have you heard from the woman?
What I'm hearing now is that what Mr. Tule is saying. Like, okay, so the man is saying, I'm not married to you, but
And the woman said, no, we are married. And so they are accusing Mrs.
Cooper of taking her friend's wife,
Yeah.
her friend's husband.
And then they are saying this is in Labrador, this is bigamy.
it's
So
always easy to target the most successful person. That's a lot easier.
Of course.
what does that mean? Anyway, come tomorrow or join us this Sunday at 2 p.m. We're going to have Sajo right here on Focus on Liberia. Honorable Green, what's your Tabata of the week?
The topic of the week is that the government just took over, trying their best, and so far we're already hearing the government has failed. When the government hasn't spent 1 year, so they accuse the president of making a point.
The first period they fail is not the whole year.
Say again.
Maybe at the first period test, it's not a whole semester.
No,
Right?
notice that the government already failed. Notice that the government already failed, so they should mobilize 1 million men and put in the street to boost the president of the office before things get bad. So the guys were like, "You sure that way you want to do?" They say, "Yes." That's why we opposition. They said, "No, that's not why we're opposition. We should work collaboratively with the government to bring progress to the country." And the government has not even lasted 1 year, so we're not into this. So now there's a big split among them. They're accusing each other of taking bribe and conniving with the government. So when I heard that, I thought it was funny and childish.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And viewers, if you are watching and there's any Tabata of the week, please let us know. My Tabata of the week is after we heard all that cursing and everything. The people that are cursing, they say, "Oh, in the security sector, that's how we speak." No, that's not how people speak. People don't be cussing around their bosses and say, "Hey, this is a common language in the security sector."
no, definitely not.
I mean, that was Tabata.
That locker room talk.
Yeah, nobody go to their boss and say this X, Y, Z and say, "Oh, that's how we talk." The Tabata is my seller has been accused of this before with an NBA executive. I don't know who, but that's the Tabata. Elvis Morris, my Tabata is President GMB appointing Kebe, who can barely speak English. How is he going to be an effective ambassador for sports? I mean, it's not even about English. I mean, what's wrong with Washington Blade? What's wrong with James Diba? What's wrong with even Timothy Weah? I think Timothy Weah will make the best ambassador, right? But Kebe, no. To me, that's complete Tabata. I agree. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for the time tonight. We'll now go around the room for your closing comments. Let's take 45 seconds to close so that we can be beyond the hour. Let me start with Honorable Graves. Your closing.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me again. To our audience out there, thanks for being a part of this program, as usual. To close, I think we should not be carried away and be nonchalant about how government function, how policies are regulated, and all of these things that we have to follow. Policies are not evolving issues. They are not moving actionable bodies of work. These are things that I've studied with teamwork and put in place, set for everybody to follow. If there's any additional piece to add to or to make changes or what have you, there's a process that is followed. It's not unilaterally done by an individual because you think you are the head. One of the things, Liberia is for all of us. Liberia is for all Liberians. And every Liberian, whether home or abroad, deserve the right to go home and contribute a quota. And when you come there, it doesn't matter where you come from. There are functions, if we take it seriously and respect our authorities and our guidelines, we would not have these kind of confrontation and problems, and would not be accusing each other of corruption, because those are recycled issues that are put in the press by our own, like you see the fight, the in-house fighting. Our own colleague will put issues in the news media about you, accuse you, and they use that, regurgitate it to accuse you of corruption. So we gotta be very careful and mindful how we use the word corruption on our individual public servants.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me again, and look forward to next week.
Thank you. Mr. Tule, your closing, sir.
Thanks again for having me today. You know, first day on the show, it was a bit fiery. I like it, and but I like to speak to my fellow Liberians here. No, Liberia is all we have. You know, and looking at Liberia today, you know, the country is truly struggling. You know, and then we trust the ability of President Joseph Njomo Boakai to help resuscitate the country after being in the hands of that incompetent George Weah. You know, we are, the country is left with nothing. You know, and all we can hope for is that the leadership do better. You know, that whatever his arrest agenda is, you know, that it should come to fruition. And again, to stress on the political appointee issue, that the president should look deeply into that, where heads of agency should not be the one that they should leave everything to bring their deputies. I think that's a recipe for corruption, because if you say bring someone I'm comfortable, I mean, you tell me bring someone you're comfortable with. You give me you give me that arsenal to do whatever I want to do. Like, I bring my close confidant who I know can work for me. If I want to be corrupt, he's going to shut up. And that also sort of undermine, that it doesn't look at the person qualification, because if I bring you, whether you're qualified or not, I look to you to submit to me, even if I'm doing wrong. You should not say a word that you should become it automatically puts people in that position where you become a sycophant. So I urge the president to sort of look at that, and that those kind of strategy should change if we want actually our government agencies to actually function well. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif.
Yeah, I think all that, Mr. Tula, and thank you too for being here. I think you brought a lot to this discussion. But the thing about Liberia is that, as Thomas mentioned, he gave a little history about what led to this, where there was infighting when president was making the appointment without a recommendation. I think that's what he spoke to, without the recommendation of the minister or the director. And now that the directors or ministers are involved in the selection process, we will expect that it will be harmonious. But if that's not occurring, then where do we go? So there needs to be another set of evaluation of that process. I don't think one size fits all. All this speaks to is greed for power. I mean, certain people are just greedy. Certain people are just, hungry for power. I think that's what you saw at the LDEA. The lawlessness was out of control. It's the reason why I call for a strong judicial system, a strong Ministry of Justice, to adjudicate some of these things. Until that's done, you're going to have a repeat of this somewhere else, perhaps. But this was egregious. I hope that we don't see this again. I hope that the guys who instigated this, they get fired, they lose their jobs, because this is a shame that they brought to the country. And I mean, the two deputy directors, they are responsible for this. And I hope that they can lose their jobs.
Thank you.
So guys, I beg, please, I got to run. I was just, excuse. See you next meeting. Tule, nice talking to you, Tule, and everybody. Thomas,
I'll see you.
You guys, yeah.
Look like your closing.
My closing. Well, I would say that for the two issues we have, I've known A.B. Krumah for a long time, probably way back, as you would say. And I know his character, and I've seen him in position of responsibility. That he was young at a time when he was chief of staff. That everybody, the warring faction, this international community trusted him to put him in charge of the AFL and bring all the groups together and disarm them, to start the disarmament process. So to say that he will go into an office and say, oh yeah, I got 2 deputies, somebody he recommended to the president, and say, oh, you have to do it my way or get out of here. No, that doesn't sound like AB. And I think the letter to the minister gives an indication of what kind of people he's working with. If you're head of DEA, you're fighting drug and all of that, and he was supposed. People were talking about him going to the police as a police director. No, they sent him to DEA. And I can't imagine him doing that. I can't imagine AB doing anything different. And yes, if you went to write to our boss and say, I'm a drug dealer, I would say, yeah, don't bring gun to my office because I don't know what you would do. Regarding the Africa-Korea summit, I have written about this long ago. I've written about it many times. I tell these people, I don't understand it, that we do this, that African leaders will pack, and most of them have private jets. I mean, I remember in Japan, when I went, there were like 40 African presidential jets on the, can you imagine? They fly with a private jet to go to Japan to go beg for money. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And then they decide, I can give you the choreography. The opening ceremony, the president comes, talks, and then the AU president talks, and then Paul Kagame or one of the Arab president talks, and then that's it. And then they break you into small groups, and then lunch, somebody else lecture you about democracy, and then at night, reception, wine, and then the next day they say, everybody on your own, and then you flight leave. When does your flight leave? They want to kick you out of the hotel because they have only 2 days to get you in the hotel. It's a shameful thing for Africa. I think we should never do it. But I'm not president, so I can't vote.
Yeah. There's an African church here. So the church, the Liberian church, they don't have a place of their own. So they are worshiping in the American church. So when the Americans go in the morning, you see the pastor in your sweatpants, some in jeans, some still in the sweaters, and they are out of there. Then we who don't have a place, they are giving us free place. But when we go in, you see the men, the coat suit, the women, the pocketbook, how they call that futon?
Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton, yeah. And then the hair tie. So the people say, but these people, we need to be charging them for rent. Rent the place because the clothes alone. Thomas, you're closing.
No, before Thomas came on, no, that's a real story. In Ivory Coast, Ivorians started revolting in Fort Boigny because they told Fort Boigny were giving money to Liberian refugees because they were always well dressed. They were always getting good food.
Yeah, the same in Ghana, they say the Ghanaian president was giving money to refugees. Thomas, you're closing.
Good show. Like I said, I support the position of the president to suspend the 3 top heads of the LDEA.
You think you should fire all 3?
I think so, because I think if AB goes back and the other 2 guys leave, what is the message that you are sending to his upcoming new deputies? Just do what AB wants you to do. If you don't do it, you might also be going. But again, I think they should just follow the investigation. This is why I think we should not dismiss the letter that was written, because at this point in time, that's the only evidence that is documented to say these are the things that the Director General of the LDEA did. So let them go through the investigation. And if those issues, like was said earlier, he's guilty of them, then there should be a penalty, because many of them are around the violation of rules and regulations that we have in place. And to the 3 of them, I think the fight against drug was one bright spot that we had. That's already falling apart. The asset recovery team, where it was put in place, is something we celebrated, and then a bump against a war. Now the asset recovery team has to recover itself before it can recover asset. So I think we're just losing those bright spots that we had. So it was really disheartening to see what was going through at the LDEA. On the issue of this summit, like I said, I think the West is mostly done with us. They've trained us over to the East. So it's either we are going to Korea or the next time we go to Singapore and other places. Our leaders need to sit down and really figure out how we can build this continent that has a very youthful population, has a lot of natural resources. We need to do our homework, and then we can see people coming to us rather than inviting us to go to them. Thank you.
So does it feel like, your ex-wife dating somebody else?
Yeah, but no, but for us, the Liberians, I think we should think about it. Walker came to the U.S. Africa Business Summit, which was organized by the Africa Council of, an NGO. Actually, it's not really, it's not a business summit. They do this every year. They invite one president. I work with them. In fact, I created a newspaper. He came here. He went to Korea, but he didn't go to the AU. He didn't go to the African Development Bank. He didn't go to the ECOWAS meeting.
Yeah.
We got to be careful.
And he didn't go to the inauguration of the
He has
Senegalese
not been to
president.
Sierra Leone so far. He has not been to Sierra Leone. He has not been to Ghana. He has not been to Nigeria or
He went
Guinea.
to Ivory Coast and Guinea-Bissau.
Yeah, because of foreign.
Well, yeah, Guinea-Bissau, we don't know why, but he went to Ivory Coast for electricity.
All right, but he been there. End of story. All right, thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate your time. I want to thank our viewers. Always watch Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Till then, we end the broadcast with the song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you.
All right.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.